All right, back again,
We're
together in
back.
marriage.
I hope you guys really enjoyed the last video talking about speaking the same language, but we've got another cool topic for today.
Yeah, I'm so excited to get a chance to just chat with you all today. We're going to be talking about prioritizing presence. And I'm just going to start right out of the gate with reading to you. Um,
Let's start over.
okay, I don't know which, is this in Matthew? I didn't put which book it's from. Oh, Lord. I put the verses, but not the book. Hold on. Sorry. Luke 38.
Is there any other verse that you didn't mark out?
I think the rest of them should be good. All right. Sorry about that. Is that good?
I think so.
Sorry.
You're fine. The reason I paused this is because I realized that you're looking at yourself and that was going to make you feel
Oh, yeah.
some type of way. So,
You can lower the screen.
yeah. I just didn't want to reach out and do it in the middle.
Okay.
All right, we're already running, so.
Okay.
What's up? Welcome back to our second devotional. We're
Welcome
really
back.
excited to be getting started. I hope that you guys really enjoyed the last one where we talked about speaking the same language. I hope that it was impactful for you guys. And I hope that you guys will listen up to what we've got coming now because we have another awesome devotional.
Awesome. I am so excited to get to chat with you. This month, we're talking about prioritizing presence. And we're going to talk about prioritizing presence with God, with your spouse, and also with your family
Sure.
today. So I'm going to read to you out of Luke 10, verses 38 through 42. And it says, As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted
Yeah.
by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care if my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. That's a funny thought, to
It
go to
is.
Jesus and be like, tell my sister she needs to come wash these dishes.
Yeah. I feel like it was super sassy when she said it too.
So let me redo that. Let me
Yeah.
say, tell her to help me. I think you gotta put your neck into that one. But anyways, he said, Jesus answered, Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. So, again, we're going to talk about prioritizing the presence. And I used to read this passage, and I relate a lot to a girl like Mary. I thought Mary was just distracted. I picture Martha and Mary in the kitchen together. Mary's washing dishes. Maybe she doesn't really like to wash dishes. I personally don't love to wash dishes.
Sure.
So I picture her, in the kitchen, and she hears Jesus out of like I guess the corner of her ear, not the corner of her eye, but the corner of her ear.
Yeah.
She hears Jesus and she's like, oh, I wonder what he's talking about. And she puts her dish down slowly and kind of creeps into the living room. And then she's sitting next to the big comfy couch that we're on right now, right? And so I always thought that Mary got distracted in the midst of her chores, which I am a huge offender of. If I'm in the middle of a chore, Marky will find me like somewhere else working on something new. Yeah. So I related to Mary, but then I recently read this passage and realized that Mary was actually not the one distracted in the story.
Yeah. Wow.
The one distracted in the story was Martha, and that's in the Bible. It says Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. Mm-hmm. What this tells me is that Jesus's presence was the main priority, and Martha was the one distracted by all the things that need to be done.
Okay.
And how common, how much does that resonate with us? Mm-hmm. Being present is such a challenge for people, especially in our modern technological world. We saw it was a challenge for Martha before Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok.
Yeah.
But it's even more of a challenge now.
Yeah.
There are so many distractions from being present. You think about, like I mentioned, social media. You think about work. Mm-hmm. As soon as you come home from work, it's hard to unplug from work. It's hard to be present with your family because you're thinking about what needs to be done tomorrow.
Yeah, the news has been a big distraction.
And the news has been a huge distraction.
With some of these things that are happening, it's easy to get lost into what's going to happen with politics or government. And
absolutely. We think about housekeeping. Again, I'm speaking from a woman's perspective here today, but there will be times that I'm trying to be in the presence of the Lord, and the presence of my kitchen is calling me to say, you need to get some dishes done. This is crazy. Mm-hmm. Or, our children have a very good understanding of time when it comes to meals. Not in other things, but definitely when it comes to meals. When it's time to eat, they know what time it is. So there's that can be a need for sure, but it can be a distraction of like, I have to get all of this done before dinner time.
Right.
We think about children's sports. If your children are in basketball, baseball, football, soccer, activities, dance, gymnastics, or even if you're involved in extracurricular activities, all of those things are great things and good things, but they can distract from the main thing, the one thing that's important. Even ministry obligations. I know there are seasons where we're running around doing ministry. We're getting ready to jump into Encounter Month. That's going to be a busy month for us. How do we keep that from not being a distraction from being in God's presence and being present with each other? Of course, there's seasons where you juggle and you balance, and there's busier seasons and quieter seasons. Sure. But we have to make sure that we're prioritizing presence in all seasons, even though that might look different in every season. So if we want to have successful marriages and families, if we want to have a successful life with God, if we want to be disciples and disciple others, we have to prioritize being present with God, with our spouse, and with our children. So I want to talk about being present with God. And what I've noticed over the years is an emphasis on self-care. Okay. And this is especially for young women, for young mothers. There's this big emphasis on self-care. And as much as I love self-care, I got caught in the trap of believing on it to save me from how I was feeling. And no matter how much self-care I did, you'd be like, go take a bath, go relax, please, you're stressing everyone out. No matter how many bubble baths I took, or, go and get a massage, or do some coloring, or do some deep breathing, those things would help temporarily. But truly, truly, the best self-care that I have ever found is being in the presence of God.
Sure. So can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I hear you talking about prioritizing the presence and being being with God.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're going to bring this home later, but I kind of want to know now, how is this going to impact marriages?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in order for us to be present in our marriages, that involves serving one another.
Sure.
And it involves mental capacity. It involves sometimes physical capacity.
Okay.
And in order to have that capacity, I think that you have to be taking care of yourself. That's where the self-care comes in.
I gotcha.
But like I said, the best self-care that I have found is being in the presence of God. And
Sure.
I'm going to explain that because that's also in the Bible. I'm
Sure.
not bringing anything out of my own mind, but
Yeah.
it is in the Bible.
Sure.
As a young mom, I felt like Martha very, very often. I got distracted with everything that needed to be done and worried about many, many things to the point where I was feeling anxious. I was feeling tired. I was feeling overwhelmed. Even recently, if I can be vulnerable, having a new baby, there was a time where I was just feeling very anxious. I felt like I was like on the verge of panicking. Like often I was becoming snappy with people that I was close to. And we had a really good conversation, you and I was like, I know I need to get into the presence of God. And when I started prioritizing being in God's presence again, it was like a shift happened, and
it works.
it works. And it's important. So what are the benefits of prioritizing the presence of God?
Okay.
The first one is fullness of joy. Fullness of joy. That's in Psalm 16:11. It says, "You make known to me the path of life. You will fill me with joy in your presence, with eternal pleasures at your right hand."
Wow.
So we can experience fullness of joy in God's presence. And when we experience fullness of joy as individuals, we can also experience joy in our marriages,
Sure.
joy in our families, joy in our churches, because it trickles down.
Sure.
There's this saying that you can't pour from an empty cup. But what fills that cup? The world would say, again, self-care.
Yeah.
I would say, based on the Bible, that being in God's presence is what fills that cup so that you can pour to your family, that you can pour to your church, to your community. Also, some other benefits of prioritizing the presence of God: perfect peace.
Wow.
Isaiah 26:3 says, "You will keep him at perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts in you."
Amen.
And you're talking about the news, you're talking about all this stuff that's
Yeah.
very chaotic. Our
Yeah.
world is in chaos. You don't
Yeah.
have to look far to find chaos. If you probably take one step out of your door, or if you turn on your phone for less than a minute, you can find chaos.
For sure.
Being in God's presence allows you to have access to peace, and not just peace, but perfect peace.
And I think that right there is enough to be worth it just
Yeah,
for that.
absolutely. And because he trusts you, he or she, you can put she in there too. He trusts in you. When we're in God's presence and we're able to trust him completely and we're able to find that perfect peace, the chaos in the world starts to grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and in his grace. And there's something that Pastor Antoine taught us when we were young, married, was that, if you're in a boat and there's a storm,
Yeah.
the water outside of the boat is not the problem. The water coming inside the boat is the problem.
Yeah.
And so even though you may be surrounded by, things that are going on, distractions, chaos, there's a lot of things that are out there that are very, very negative. If you keep the water out of your boat, you can be at perfect peace. Just like Jesus slept in the bottom of the boat,
Sure.
you can be at perfect peace.
Yeah. So how do you keep the water out of the boat?
Well, if you do nothing, the water will get in the boat.
Yeah.
And so that's where if you choosing to prioritize the presence of God is a choice.
Sure.
But not prioritizing the presence of God is also a choice.
For sure.
And passivity will cause that water to come into the boat.
Sure.
But if you are actively pursuing the presence of God, it's like that water doesn't stand a chance because there's God's presence there with you.
Yeah. So it's almost like you're filling the boat with the presence so that there is no space for the water to get in.
Absolutely. All right. Any other benefits you want to hear about? I've got more. Hope and strength. The Bible says, but those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. We understand that having a marriage, having a family, having a job, discipling other people, having a small group, all of those things are, they take time, they take energy, they take your strength away. Like you could feel really tired at the end of the day.
Sure.
But if you're in the presence of God, your strength is being renewed. You're renewing your strength. You're connecting with the source of hope and with strength. And so you can do all of those things that God has planned for you and not grow weary, to not faint. And you're building up your strength. You think about, we recently went back to the gym. And so we are building our strength right now of going back to the gym. So I was running and I was growing weary. I was walking back from the gym to my car and I felt like I was about to faint, but I'm building that strength. And that same thing is happening where we're in the presence of God. It's building strength in us. It's fortifying hope in us.
Wow.
It's allowing us to become stronger so that when things happen around us,
and they will,
because again, we live in a world where things are constantly happening. We have that strength and we can always go back to that source. And this is the last benefit that I'm going to mention here today, but there's many, many more. Sure. So this is not the full extent of the benefits, but these are the ones I think are most prominent for today. And that is comfort. In Psalm 23, verse 4, and this is my favorite psalm. It says, even though I walk through the darkest valleys, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and staff, they comfort me. So we can receive comfort from being in the presence of God.
And so the benefits, it sounds like, of prioritizing the presence of God: fullness of joy, perfect peace, hope and strength, and comfort.
Yes, absolutely. And all of those things come together and allow us to do the most important things, to prioritize the most important things, right? You see, Martha is working really, really hard in the story, but she's not being profitable in anything. Mary is doing nothing. She's sitting at the feet of Jesus, yet she is doing the most profitable thing.
Wow. Can you say that again?
Yes.
That was good.
Mary is working really hard. She's working day and night.
Yeah.
She's striving. She's sweating. She's probably got flour on her apron, dish soap in her hair, and she's just like, what is happening? She's working so hard to try to please Jesus, to try to host his presence.
Wow.
But Mary is sitting at the feet of Jesus and doing nothing but listening, and she is doing the most productive thing.
Wow. And
I think evidence of that is later on, when Jesus is about to be crucified, this is not even my notes, this is for free. When Jesus is about to be crucified, all of his other disciples didn't understand what was happening. They were questioning, they were upset, they were not in perfect peace. But Mary, who sat at the feet of Jesus, understood what Jesus was about to do. And she bought an expensive oil. She bought an expensive perfume and anointed him for burial.
Wow.
Mary understood what these other disciples maybe didn't understand at the time because she had been spending time in God's presence.
Wow.
So, anyways, that's for free. That's not even in the notes. Being in God's presence is more than checking off a spiritual to-do list.
Sure.
It is spending real time with God. And can I just say, all of these benefits are great, but there is something else too that I want to share with you. And that is, God wants to spend time with you.
Yeah.
God desires to spend time with you. Depending on your cultural background or what church you grew up in, or if you didn't grow up in church, sometimes it can feel like, oh, I have to do this to appease God.
Sure.
So he's not angry with me. Or I have to do this because this is what I'm supposed to do as a Christian. And if I don't do this, I'm not a good Christian.
Yeah.
But God actually wants to meet with you. He desires to be in your presence as we are in the presence of God, right? And so I want you just to orient your mind to that as we're talking about devotionals. And that is the word that I'm going to use for spending time with God.
Sure.
Some people use quiet time, devotionals, you could say Bible study, but just for clarity, devotionals is the word I'm using for spending time in God's presence. Okay. And there is a really good author who you may not know. Pastor Antoine has a whole book about having real life with God, and this is not an advertisement or a shameless plug, but it is a book that we both have read and has been really impactful. And this structure that we're going to talk about is actually based off of that book. So if you want to go deeper into the area of devotionals, you can look that up. It's called, again, Having Real Life with God.
Right.
And it's really easy to read and really easy to follow along with. But I'm going to go over the basic structure of what that devotional life looks like with God. And the basic structure is you speak to God, God speaks back to you, and then you speak to God again. So conversation. So for example, if I said, "Hey Mark, how are you?"
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So it's basically like that. Maybe a little less awkward, maybe a little more awkward depending on the day of your devotional life. But you speak to God, God speaks back to you, and then you speak to God again. So the first part of your devotional, spending time in God's presence, is going to be you speaking to God. And this is a step that I personally often am tempted to skip. I'm tempted to jump right into, all right, I got to read my Bible. But before we get there, we enter God's presence with thanksgiving, and we enter his courts with praise. Sure. So that's Psalm 100 verse 4, by the way. If you think about, if you were going on a date, for example, and, you just decided, all right, we're going to just jump right into it. As soon as we get home, we're going to the movies. We're going to sit down at the movies, and that's going to be our date. Sure. There probably wouldn't be a lot of connection on that date because you're just jumping right on into it. It'd probably be hard to feel that connection. So there has to be some conversation first. Right. Maybe you're getting ready together to go on that date. There's some conversation. So don't be tempted just to jump right into, let's open up the Bible and let's get right into it. Taking time to enter God's presence with worship and with thanksgiving is really like kind of setting the stage and allowing for God's presence to be there. I think I might cut that part out. That was kind of awkward. I'm gonna cut that out. Okay, so we want to enter God's presence with thanksgiving. We want to enter his courts with praise. So this is us speaking to God. So first of all, thanksgiving is when you are thanking God for what he has done for you. So this can be physical things like your house, your family. It can be your salvation. Right. It can be thanking God for his mercy that are new every morning. It's thanking God for what he's done. And then when we're talking about praising God, that is just giving God acknowledgement for who he is. Yeah. You think about, your husband or your wife, they can thank you for something that you did for them, but also think about how much it touches your heart when they just say, I appreciate the fact that you care for our children. I appreciate who you are. I appreciate your loving nature. I appreciate how you protect me and you keep me safe. I appreciate not just what you do, but who you are at your core.
It's going beyond an action into their character.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
calling out their character and the good attributes that they have.
Yeah, so you could say, God, you are merciful. God, you are holy. God, you are worthy. And this is not necessarily connected to anything that he's done for you or that he's done in general, but just his character and who he is. Devotions, you want to start with that praise and thanksgiving. And you can be as creative with this as you want to be.
Sure.
I'm a creative person. I believe that God is creative. He created everything.
Yeah.
So I believe that when we're praising God, when we're giving him thanksgiving, it doesn't have to be the same rehearsed thing that you say every day. It doesn't have to be something that you write down and journal. I know a lot of people like journaling, but if that's not your gig, then you don't have to journal. But here are some ideas of what you can do. You can verbally speak those thanksgiving and those praises. I would encourage you, at some point, it's great to open up your mouth and start talking to God, because he is conversational.
Right.
So you can do any of these things, but it's also good to be talking through these things as well.
Yeah.
So that could be verbally speaking. It can be singing. This can be playing instruments. One of my favorite things that our son Prince does right now is he has a little ukulele, and he will just pick up that ukulele and he'll just start being like, God, you are worthy, you are great, you are awesome, I love you. And like the song is not rhyming, there's no chorus and verse, but he's singing his heart out to the Lord. So you can sing to God. You can make up a new song. You can sing along to worship songs. I know personally I have a worship playlist that's like 8 hours long. And I can just turn that on because it has all of my favorite worship songs on there. You can dance, dancing in God's presence. You can do journaling. Like I said, journaling, a lot of people really enjoy that.
Yeah.
And I like journaling because it gives you a timeline that you can see all the things that God has done.
Yeah.
If you journaled about buying a car, for example, back in last year, and now you have that car that you prayed for, and God opened a door and made a way, you can go back and see where God has been faithful. So journaling is also a great opportunity to communicate with God, that praise and that worship. You could use poetry, any sort of thing.
Sure.
I like this structure because it gives you flexibility, because some days I like to just speak and maybe pray in tongues and worship out loud. Some days I like to listen to music and be in God's presence. Some days I like to dance. Some days I like to journal. But I know that it's going to start off with me talking to God, and it's going to be praise, and it's going to be thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So there's flexibility in that, and it doesn't get like dry or repetitive because I can be flexible with that. So that's us speaking to God. It's important that you use your real voice to worship. Don't just worship God in your thoughts, but worship him like he is really there, because he is with you.
Yeah. It almost sounds like us doing devotionals is our version of sitting at Jesus' feet.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
being able to be transformed just by being in his presence.
Absolutely. And that's how we enter his presence, is through thanksgiving.
Sure.
And is through praise. And you'll find when you start praising God, you start giving him thanksgiving, I always find like I feel God's presence, and it feels like, oh man, God wants to meet me here. And God is speaking to me. So then the next part is God speaks back to you. This is primarily through reading your Bible. The primary way that God speaks to his children is through his word. So we have many Bible plans through the church. I know they just actually started some new Bible reading plans that some of the pastors and leaders are leading, as well as like our normal Bible reading plans that we go through. I'm sorry.
I was trying to tell you, don't do this commentary part.
Okay.
This is not necessary for this kind of setting. So perfect. I was trying to say, go here next.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, there's many Bible reading plans. I would definitely encourage you to join a Bible reading plan that the church is doing, because you're able to connect with the Lord. Obviously, having a plan, it's not a spiritual checklist or to do, but it can help you from feeling overwhelmed of like, I got to open up the Bible and read something. We called it Bible Roulette in college, where you just open up the word and hope it speaks to you. You don't ever have to worry about Bible Roulette if you have a reading plan that you're doing. And so that is really helpful. And also hearing from like Pastor Antoine, if you were to join in on his reading plan that he's doing, you might be able to have some questions answered, or think about things in a different way. So I definitely encourage you to join in with that. And this is how you'll be able to identify God's character and his voice by reading his word. So as pastors, sometimes we hear, God told me this, and then the thing that God told them is not in the Bible. Right. So we, for example, heard one time someone say, God told me to divorce my wife. That's not in the Bible. So God is always going to speak in the same way, and is always going to be consistent with what he's saying. So by reading the Bible, you'll be able to identify his character and his voice, right, when he's speaking to you. And then after you've concluded your time reading, again, this is where the temptation could be just to close the Bible and be like, all right, well, I got to get ready for the day. The kids are ready to get up for school. Breakfast has to be cooked, whatever it is, things need to get done. Yeah. This could be really tempting to just close the Bible and put it away and walk away. But right, as we saw when I asked Mark, how are you doing? And he said, good. And it was awkward, because he didn't speak back, right? You don't want to just leave it at, okay, I spoke to God, he spoke back, we're good, let's put the Bible away, right? You want to speak back to God again. So at this point, it's time for you to acknowledge what you're taking away and prepare to apply it. So you can do that through writing down a verse that stands out to you. I frequently do this in the Bible plan that I'm on. I'll be on my Bible app and just copy and paste the verse that stood out to me and a couple of things that I'm taking away from that. Things that you've noticed, that you've learned from the passage, and how you should apply it. And then ask God to help you apply that. So that can be a great place to pray and just say, I learned today about the fruit of the Spirit is joy. God, help me to be joyful today. Help me to apply this, that I have the Holy Spirit on the inside of me and I can be joyful even if my workplace is really negative. You've given me the Holy Spirit so that I can be joyful. So help me to be joyful today. That could be an example of that. And you don't have to write anything down. You could just pray about it. You could just pray and talk through it with God, and asking God to help you apply what you're learning. And I will say there's some days where you're reading like Leviticus and you're like, I don't know how to apply this scripture to my life. But you're in God's presence. Yeah. You're prioritizing his presence, and all scripture is useful. And so you may not have a direct application for it at the moment, but God may reveal something to you, or you may, just being in God's presence might be the thing that, kind of fills you for that day. Yeah. So the next question we get asked a lot as pastors when we're talking about devotionals is, when should I do my devotionals? When should I have time with God? And really, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when you have time with God. A lot of people are very fixated on, it has to be in the morning. It has to be the first thing I do when I wake up. Before I've had a sip of coffee, I have to be in God's presence, right? But realistically, it does not have to be in the morning. It can be whenever you choose, and as long as it's relatively consistent. And understanding that there's going to be different seasons that we're all in, different seasons of life. So for us having a new baby, There's some mornings that she wakes up at 6. There's some morning that she wakes up at 8. And so there's some mornings that I am doing my Bible study with the baby in the morning. There's some mornings where I'm outside doing a prayer walk in the backyard before she wakes up. But it's relatively consistent. I know that I'm going to try to spend time in God's presence in the morning. And I'm going to try to be there in his presence, right? It could be morning, it could be lunchtime if you have a lunch break at work, and you could just use that time to be in God's presence. Evening can all work as long as you're there consistently. The amount of time also doesn't matter. A lot of people put pressure on themselves to be doing a devotional for at least 30 minutes or an hour or 2 hours or however long they set themselves up for.
Right.
But it's better to be consistent and to build a habit rather than try to just go, and then you're not able to consistently keep up with that. So an example of that is I remember when I was in probably high school, I challenged myself to read through the whole book of Proverbs in one day. And I did it. But do I remember anything from, did I retain any of that information at the time? No. If I had read through the book of Proverbs over a month, I probably would have a lot more of the retaining of that information. And I have gone back, of course, and read Proverbs again. And when I read through it slowly, I was like, oh, I understand what he's trying to say here. I understand this. I understand that. So, it's better to do consistently than just trying to do as much as you possibly can every single day. Being consistent. So if that's 15 minutes, if that's 10 or 15 minutes, that's better than just not being consistent in God's presence. So yeah, I remember when our twins were really little, sometimes I would just be in the bathroom in the presence of God, lock the door. You were with the boys. I'm just like, I need a moment to be with God. So God can really meet you wherever you're at. The goal is consistency. The goal is not perfection. The goal is not 3 hours a day. The goal is being consistently in God's presence for a certain amount of time, however much time you can, and God will meet you there in that time. And it's amazing how he does that every single time. If you were to do all 3 portions of the devotional, I would say my advice is to kind of space them out evenly so you're making sure you're having time to talk to God, have God talk to you, and then talk back again. So now that we've talked about being present with God and the benefits, I want to talk about being present with your spouse, because that is an area that can easily go to the back burner, is what I've found. Is being present with your spouse can go to the back burner when work gets stressful, when the kids get sick, when you are kind of stuck in a roommate phase with your spouse, right? After our relationship with God, our next priority is our relationship with our spouse. And I want you to consider this for a second. Genesis 2:24 says, "Therefore, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." You must be present with your spouse because you are one flesh with them. If one half of your organs in your body decided to disconnect from your body, you'd be in bad shape. If the left side fell off, you would be all right, but you wouldn't be all right. That was a dad joke. You got it? Okay, great. But if one half of your body just went offline, you would be in really, really bad shape. You cannot disconnect half of your body and still be healthy and still be working. You would be dead if that happened, right? You and your spouse are one flesh, and sometimes we can forget that, again, especially in busy seasons where it seems like we're Martha-ing, right? And it's like we're working, we're striving, we're doing all of this, but we're not present with each other. Being present with your spouse involves intentionality, especially during busy seasons. And I think about Martha's response to Mary's actions. How easy is it for us to fall into the same trap where we're like, hey, help me.
Yeah.
What are you doing? You're getting distracted, right? The roommate phase for marriages is something that can feel really real. When you're both so focused on things that need to get done, housework, work, kids, other family obligations. Maybe you're taking care of your parents now.
Yeah.
It can start to feel like you're more like roommates than spouses.
Sure.
So being present with God takes planning. So does being present with your spouse. And so you're not having a devotional with your spouse every day.
Right.
Right. But it does take planning and it does take intentionality. So is it okay if I give you all some practicals that you can take away from this to try to help you? All right, great. So some practicals that we're going to just give you is first, put your phone away when you're talking to your spouse. This is something that I personally have been working on. And so everything in this list are things that we are also working on. So there's no judgment here. But putting the phone away when you're talking to your spouse, unless there's a legitimate emergency, no one should have more access to you than your spouse. So if you have someone in your family that is sick or you're on call, like you're, a police officer, a first responder or something like that, those are emergency situations. But your coworkers can wait if you're talking to your spouse. Your family members, if it's not an emergency, they can wait if you're talking to your spouse. We live in a world where everyone has immediate access to everyone, and that's just not healthy in relationships, especially if your spouse needs to connect with you, but you're also connected with someone at the same time. So putting your phones away when you're talking to your spouse. Something we've done recently is just putting our phones in a different room when we get home, because oftentimes you get distracted, you're on your phone, and then you're not present with your spouse, you're not present with your family. Spend at least a few minutes a day talking. And if you do this around the same time every day, just like you do with your devotionals with God, that can be really, really helpful. So, for example, I know Mark Williams is going to call me every day at 4 p.m. Mark calls me every day at 4 p.m. on his ride home from work, and we talk for usually about 10 to 30 minutes. I leave work at 4:30, so he'll talk to me while I'm finishing up my work day, and we talk for that amount of time, to the point that if Mark does not call me at 4:30, I start to worry, at 4 p.m. I start to worry if he's in a ditch somewhere, right? Because he is consistent on the clock. I can sync my watch to the fact that he's going to call me at 4 o'clock, right? And because of that, I know that I have that time to connect with him, right? And if I need to chat about things, if I need to share how I'm feeling or the exciting things that happen during my day, I can do that then. We also want you to plan regular dates.
Yeah.
And again, it's about consistency,
Sure.
not about frequency.
Yeah.
So I would say aim for at minimum once a month for your dates. If you have the capacity, the childcare, the finances to do once a week, that would be excellent. That'd be awesome. If you haven't gone on a date in 8 months, start with a date this month and try to work on doing one a month.
Yeah, because 12 is really not that bad when you look at it like that. I plan to go on at least 12 dates this year.
Yeah.
And then you can always add if you need to add more, but
yeah, it's something that's really, really doable. You may need to think outside of the box in certain seasons. So, for example, when our boys were young, they were born in 2019. So right around the age where we're starting to be able to leave them with people and get childcare to go on dates, COVID hit. And so we were at home. We didn't have childcare. We had 2 young boys. And we were in that roommate phase. And our marriage was struggling a little bit. But we started to prioritize at-home dates. and figure out creative ways to still meet each other and still have dates and have fun and connect. And we had to do it once the boys went to bed, and sometimes it was a later night, but we were able to have those dates and we were able to connect, and it caused us to be more creative. So at-home dates can be just as fun and engaging, but it does take some planning. And just keeping that in mind. I also want to encourage you not to settle for a dinner and a movie every single time that you go on a date. It can be easy to go back to spots that are comfortable, restaurants that you love. A movie is super easy to go to, and it can be easy to fall into those same sort of patterns. But novelty is one of the ways that you really can connect with your spouse in a deeper way by doing something new with them. So I would encourage you. We have a date list database that we've made of like all the cool places that we've seen on Instagram, that we've seen on Facebook, that we've seen on the marriage chat, and we put it into a spreadsheet. And so we've organized it by dates that are more fun, dates that are athletic, dates that are foodie kind of dates, and we've organized them in those ways so we can find things that can easily fit the mood. So maybe you're not as nerdy as we are, and that's okay. But you could save your dates in like a shared date ideas in a shared note app with your spouse. Like if you see something on Instagram, you can put it in the note app or something like that. So be creative. Look for new things. Don't just settle for what is comfortable all the time, because that novelty is gonna create connection with your spouse.
And you don't always have to spend a lot of money on a date either. As a matter of fact, we'll probably soon be doing a date challenge where the whole point is to spend a small amount of money but have a good impact. And so I think that those are really awesome opportunities to stretch yourself, to say, I don't necessarily have to spend $100, $200 for a date. We could do a $25 date night and get some food and hang out and do something simple,
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually gonna issue a challenge this month. If you're okay with that. Okay, awesome. We'll get into that in just a second. Lastly, I'm going to talk about intimacy for a moment. And I think that talking about intimacy is an important part of talking about marriages. And so whenever we talk about intimacy, we're not talking about it in a crude way or in a way that's unholy or unpermissible to talk about. But it is important that we talk about intimacy, because it is something that separates a marriage relationship from every other relationship that you may have, right? So emotional intimacy is a connection point for women. So being emotionally intimate, sharing your heart is where a lot of women connect generally. Men, I would encourage you to be present and proactive when she's trying to connect on you on an emotional level. And the same instance, physical intimacy is a connection point for men. So my encouragement for women in this, who are watching this, is to be present and proactive when he's trying to connect with you on a physical level. And so that might mean just being active, being engaged when your husband is trying to connect with you on a physically intimate level. I think something that shifted my mindset and my thinking about that was just understanding that's a connection point for you to me, right? Is that physical intimacy, and to engage with that, to, if you're flirting, to flirt back, or if you are, suggesting having some fun, intimate time later that evening, that I make it a priority to have that time of intimacy in the evening. So just engaging with that. And then, like I said, for the men, if your wife is sharing, trying to connect emotionally, trying to share about her feelings about the day, that's important to her as well. Like what she thinks about, you know, her hair color or what someone at work said to her or what she had for lunch that day or how she feels about, you know, your child starting kindergarten, whatever it is. Like she's trying to connect with you in that moment.
Be willing to talk and engage.
While our connection points aren't the same oftentimes as men and women, we can prioritize the other person's connection point and they prioritize our connection point, and then together both needs are met.
One thing I don't think is talked about enough too, though, is that husbands have an emotional connection point too.
Yes.
And they have emotional things that they need to care for as
Absolutely.
well. And on the other hand, there are most women have a physical need as well. And so we do like to break it into these boxes of this is for women and this is for men. And while that may be true, there is also another side to those things, which says, you know, the guy also needs to be able to connect to his wife in a way. Like, for instance, I like to do everything with you. Like I take you everywhere. I talk to you about a whole lot of things. So that's still me connecting to you emotionally. And then, you know, I think it can be kind of a taboo for a woman to admit that she has any sort of physical desires, but God did give women physical desires as well. And so for men, we have to also be sure that as we are engaging physically, that we don't just only focus on ourselves and our own desires, but we also focus on serving. So we have to serve each other no matter what the category is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really good point. To say that there's connection points on both sides. So I definitely don't want to like stereotype in any way. But like you said, you may have to try a little bit. It might push you a little bit more outside of your comfort zone. So for example, when we're going through premarital counseling, we went through Marriage on the Rock. And one of the things that I've taken away from that is sometimes as wives, we have to be a little more sexy than we feel. And again, I don't say that to be crude, but it is the truth. Sometimes we do have to be a little bit more sexy than we feel. So we may not feel that connection, but if we prioritize that physical intimacy, what, at least in my personal experience, what I've noticed is, you know, I make that effort to connect and then I start to feel, that connection in the same way. It may be a little bit more effort for you to connect emotionally, but then you have that connection and it's a good thing. So those are the practicals for marriage. And again, all of this is flowing down. All of this is pouring out of the same cup. So as you're prioritizing presence with God, that's going to impact how you prioritize your presence with your spouse, because you're feeling comforted and perfect peace. You're feeling joyful. You're feeling all those things from being in God's presence. Now you're able to be present with your spouse. And from that place of being present with your spouse, you both are going to be able to be present with your kids. And that's really important, is that you are present with each other first. And from that place of being present with each other, you can be present with your kids. A lot of times, it's easy to fall into the trap of, you know, dad takes care of these things, mom takes care of these things, mom takes care of the kids, dad takes care of the bills. And, you know, it's separated. Again, you have to be present with each other and then present with your family. It's very, very easy to outsource parenting lately. To YouTube, to school, to cell phones, to extracurricular activities. It's very easy to outsource your parenting. So it's important that our children are getting time to be present with us. And in saying that, Mark and I both work full time. Our kids go to school. So we understand that you may not have 8 hours a day to be present with your children. We have only a couple hours in the day to be present with them. So how do we prioritize being present with them during those hours, right? We only get so much time with our children. If you think about it, our kids are 6 now. Our oldest are 6. If they live with us until they're 18, a third of the time that we have with them has already been spent. We only have so much time with our children, and we need to make sure that we're being present with them so that we're impacting their whole lives. The time that you spend now with them will impact their whole lives. If you think about some of your habits that you have or the reasons why you do certain things, you could probably trace it back to your childhood. And I know you as a counselor have talked to a lot of people about their childhood, and the good, the bad, the ugly oftentimes can stem from those places. So it's important that we're present, that we're here.
And it doesn't mean that nothing bad will ever happen.
Yep.
But it does mean that at least there's a solid parent group that's interacting with them and teaching them life lessons as they go through difficulties.
Yeah, absolutely. Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way they should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. And it's important to know that Proverbs is giving practicalities. So if you're training up a child in the way that they should go, they should not depart from those things, right? And that's, again, what we're talking about is giving them a basis, they have free will, they have choices that they can make, but we want to make sure that we're giving them a biblical basis, that we're giving them present parents, that we're giving them time and our energy. So let's talk about some practicals with that. Again, putting your phone away when you're spending time with your family. After your spouse, your next priority is your children. So again, it's really, really important. I know there's times where there's emergencies, there's times where your family is sick, that you are on call for your job, whatever it is, and those instances are okay. But at the end of the day, you need time to disconnect from the world and connect with your family.
For sure.
And your kids need that too.
Yeah.
Regularly share meals and talk with your kids. Again, that's about consistency. It's not about perfection. We don't eat dinner at the table every night because our lifestyle is, we're in ministry. We're doing things. We're moving. We're busy. But we do try to consistently have time at the table with our kids, right? And consistently share meals with them. Do devotionals with your children. Have time where you can talk about God, and that doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be something that's formal. It can just be. The Bible says talk about God when you're walking along the road with your children. So when you're driving in the car, I've had some of the best conversations with my boys about God in the car, and we talk about how good God is, and we talk about why certain things happen. So do devotionals with your kids. Talk to them about God. This past year, I was very pregnant. It was December, and I wanted to do an Advent devotion with the kids. So I just started one on the Bible app. I did not finish the Advent devotional. I'll be honest. We didn't get through all of it. I tried to be as consistent as possible, but we missed a couple days. But through that devotion, both of my children gave their life to God. One at the dinner table when we were doing our devotional, and one later on that month, because I was taking time to be present with them and to share the good news about Jesus's birth with them. And so those little impacts, those are like 5-minute devotionals, but they were impactful in every car conversation that I'd had with them, every time we took them to church. All of that grew into that one moment where they said, I see how good God is, and I want to accept Jesus into my heart. So do devotionals with your kids. Another practical is have fun. Don't be afraid to be a kid again. I have had some of the best times of my life with my children. I think sometimes we can look back on our childhood and kind of be like sad that we'll never get to be a child again, and we'll never get to experience, but you get to experience childhood again through your children and even through your grandchildren. I know some of you who watch this may have grandchildren already, which is fantastic. It's a blessing from God. So have fun with them. Don't be afraid to be a kid again. Get in a Nerf gun war with them. If you have daughters, play tea parties with them. One time I let my kids do my makeup, and they still talk about it to this day. Like, I let them just put makeup all over my face. And they had so much fun with that, and that cost absolutely zero money, and it was like 5 minutes, but it connected with them. Meeting your kids where they're at. What are their interests? Recently, we discovered our son loves puzzles, and so we did a puzzle we already had with him, and they were so excited for puzzle time. Like, it was like the best thing ever, puzzle time. They were asking us every night, is it puzzle time yet? Is it puzzle time yet? and it cost us nothing. And then we went out and bought another puzzle for $1.75 at the dollar store. So it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't even have to be 3 hours a day. We did like 20 minutes on a puzzle every night, and it impacted them. We were present with them. The goal, again, is consistency, is to prioritize being present. And when you do that, it's so fun to see how your kids flourish.
For sure, yeah.
So that interest for them may be sports, it may be Legos, it might be video games, it might be making YouTube videos and TikToks. Wherever your children are finding interest, meet them there and connect with them. And you may even be able to share some of your own interests with them. Games that you used to play when you were a kid, and they might find that to be fun as well.
Yeah.
So I want to end with some prayer points and some activations.
Yeah.
So some prayer points are: pray that God will show you areas that you can prioritize presence in your walk with Him, your marriage, and your family.
Yeah.
So I would like for you all to pray over the next couple of weeks and just ask God, where can I prioritize presence? Where can I spend more time? Where can I limit my distractions?
Yeah.
Where can I be more of a Mary and less of a Martha?
Sure. Yeah.
Over the next month. And then some activations. First, take some time to evaluate your time with God. Are there areas that you can invite His presence in more?
Sure.
So if you're already doing a devotional life, could you spend more time in prayer and thanksgiving or worshiping?
Yeah.
If you're already consistently reading your Bible, could you add that to it? Or is it possible that you can maybe explore some creative ways to connect with God if you're feeling like your devotional times are getting a little dry?
Yeah.
Also, some other activations, practice a devotional method. If you don't already have one, practice the devotional method that we talked about today, and just evaluate how it went. You might have to try a couple of different things before you find something that really works for you. A couple different times, a couple different methods. Practice. Just evaluate how it went. If it doesn't go well, keep being consistent, and you'll see. I believe that you will see God's presence being with you. Lost my train of thought. All right, and then an activation for your marriage is I'm issuing a $10 dollar store date night challenge.
Okay.
So you and your spouse each have $10.
Okay.
And you have to go into your local dollar store. I personally prefer the Dollar Tree, but I will let you all decide what your favorite dollar store is. So go into your favorite dollar store, and you have to work together to create a date that has a drink, a snack, and an activity.
Okay.
And each of you have $10, so $20 total, I guess. So work together to create a date that has a drink, a snack, and an activity. And I want to see how creative you can be on that budget.
That sounds good.
Sounds fun?
Sounds fun.
All right. And then this month, I want to also challenge you to engage each of your children in one meaningful activity. And this doesn't have to be a super long activity, but I want you to think about how you can give each of your children individualized time. Working on a puzzle, take them to a movie or a basketball game, a baseball game. Go shopping, have a cup of coffee with them, make a new recipe at home. And I realize we have some folks on this chat that have very small children and some that have children that are grown. Sure. So even if your children are already grown and moved out of the house, still think about ways that you could spend time with them. Even if it's a call. Even if it's a Zoom call or, call on the phone. Just intentionally engage each one of your children individually this month. And let us know in the chat how the $10 store challenge went. I want to see pictures.
Yes.
And I also want to know how engaging each of your children went. If you do have questions about the devotionals, please let us also know in the chat, or you can message us individually. We want to hear from you about how being present and prioritizing presence is going this month. All right. We'll see you later.
See you guys.
Bye.
See ya.